In this episode, we put in the extra hours in order to provide us with 800 rubber per minute, as well as 20,000 megawatts of power. Yo! Hello everyone! Welcome back to Prone to Play and our project Nuclear Mayhem in Satisfactory. In the last episode we built these giant power towers that now look like rubber in order to provide us with 20,000 megawatts of fuel in the end by placing 134 fuel generators inside. And today all preparations should be complete in order to flip the switch and finally start up our rubber factory with an output of 800 rubber per minute, as well as the byproduct 1600 fuel, which will give us the given amount of power. And if you saw the stream that I did on the weekend, you already know what's coming, but we have been very busy not only inside the power towers but also completing the factory itself. So let me show you what we are dealing with. This is our rubber factory in its final state. I built some concrete stairs on the outside because the entrance is facing to the coast anyways, and I don't think we will deal too much with this side, but you will see in a minute what I mean. First of all, we have 4 oil extractor towers or pillars underneath the factory, where we have oil extractors that bring a total of 1,200 crude oil per minute up into the factory. And in order to give it some support, I built some pillars in addition to the oil extractor towers that also provide support, so that the whole factory is not just floating in midair. And here we have our water extractors that are necessary for the blenders in order to give us the diluted fuel. We have 14 water extractors divided into 3 groups. These 5 groups all provide a total of 600 water per minute per pipeline, and the center one is giving us 400, so that we have a total of 1600 water per minute. And this one is a little bit underclocked, that is why it's color coded differently. And that's basically everything that's happening underneath here. So let's head inside really quick. Welcome to Rubber Residence. No idea how this name will be called, or how this place will be called in the end. So this is the main hallway, provided with some cosmetic touch label signs that provide a little bit of lighting on the walkways. And on the right side we have our refinement room with 40 refineries, providing 20 rubber as well as 20 heavy oil residue by converting the crude oil each. And this gives us a total of 800 rubber per minute as well as 800 heavy oil residue. And you can see through these glass constructions or glass frames where the heavy oil residue goes along, and also the conveyor belts for the rubber, where we will hopefully see some rubber run along very soon. The heavy oil residue then gets transported into the room on our left together with the water and gets blended to fuel with the alternate recipe diluted fuel. We have 16 blenders in total, and we will take a look on the logistics floor right underneath in just a second, but this is basically the fuel that gets transported and then consumed in our power towers. And every now and then I have some, the stairs are still missing, but I have a walkway underneath for the logistics floor to be accessible from various spots of the factory. And here I built a little train station where the rubber will eventually be stored until a train picks it up and transports it further for further production. And since update 8, Lumen physics make inside buildings or inside rooms very dark, I implemented some lights. So let me turn off the lights really quick, and you can also immediately see the difference. I'm not sure about how this color of the lighting in this room will be. You can see the intensity is only 25%, but I provided many of these in order to have sufficient lighting. It's desperately needed, since you can see what 25% of intensity makes of a difference, but the color grading is also very extreme, so I'm not sure if I even want to have a different color. Although this could look very cool at nighttime, but it's still very intense. Maybe if we tune it down a little bit. Nah. Let's keep it on the normal light color. Anyways, here we have the two train stations where the rubber will be split into 420 per minute output, and on the other side we have the remaining 380. And where this will head out to, this is another topic for the future, because we will further convert the rubber output of this factory in other factories in order to build more complex parts. And in case, especially for the start, we have any backlog, it will eventually get synced into two different awesome sinks, so that the fuel consumption will not backlog either. Now let's head to the logistics room, and you can see that it's very, very dark in here since I completed the walls on this floor. But here we have all the pipelines laid out, and I try to work with some different lighting styles. As you can see here, for example, on this part, I tried to work with billboards in order to provide a little bit of broader lighting. And you can see that the illumination spreads a little bit wider. If I turn off my own flashlight, you can immediately see that also the surrounding pipes and the conveyor belts are a little bit more visible and get illuminated. Whereas on the other side, if we have ceiling lightings installed, it's only providing light on where it shines directly, but the surrounding is still completely dark. So although I like this lighting better as a visual effect, the billboards still provide better surrounding lighting. So I am very unsure on how to do this or what the final result will be. This is, one of the two options that we have. We could also implement some windows every now and then, but I usually don't like this for logistics floors. But maybe it's necessary since update 8 has these new lumen physics. Anyways, we have two different pipeline networks for 600 crude oil each, and in total that makes 1200, which is perfect. Each 600 crude oil gets provided to 20 refineries. Then we have these purple ones for the heavy oil residue, and on the other side we have the blue ones for water, and also the orange ones for the fuel. So because of this nice color coding, we always know exactly what's inside of every pipe. Now I'm still unsure, since I decided to go with a ceiling that has a little bit of incline, on how to close this triangle gap on each side. I tried out different options. On this one I worked with fixed foundations, which looks not that amazing in my opinion. Whereas on the other side I worked with steel walls, which is a little bit better but still not perfect in my opinion. Although it looks, here it's encased in half foundations, so it's not visible from the outside. But I think the option that I will go for, let me actually show you from inside because you can see it better. But I think what I'm going for is to close the gap as much as possible with half foundations. Let it be 4 meter, 2 meter or 1, depending on the height. And then close the gap with up corner ramps. Now we do have this little, shark teeth pattern that appears on the inside, but I actually kind of like this because it breaks up the complete straight pattern of the wall. And since it's very far up on the ceiling, it's not that important anyways, but the gaps are completely closed. So I think I will do this, but if you have any other idea or prefer some of the other ones or have a completely different opinion or advice, let me know. As you know, I'm always appreciating input and feedback. And also, as promised, I tried to break up the rectangle shape of this place as much as possible, do some diagonal walls on the outside as well as on the inside. Here this one is connecting diagonally as well, completely closing this train station. And on the other side there's a diagonal and also a round pillar for cosmetic touch as well. But this is our rubber factory. Okay, I waited for nighttime to pass by really quick in order to show you the rest, because the blended fuel now gets transported to the power towers. And the small one now is actually a pump tower that provides every floor with fuel. And I set up a glass roof stairway on the inside because now the visibility of looking up and down from each floor is kind of maintained, and I wanted to try this. And also I set up a little hypertube system that brings you from this floor to every other one. You can also always drop down if you wish, but it's not able to traverse in between the other floors. For example, from the second to the third. There's no hypertube set up over there, but I think going up a little bit further from here, and if you want to go to another floor, you simply just run another one or two, or you drop down and start from this system anew. And here we have now set up our fuel generators. And as you can see on the very bottom, it's extremely dark still. I will show you actually on the top floors what we will try to do today as well. But now every floor has 11 fuel generators placed inside, completely connected to the hypertube system, to the pipeline network, excuse me. And since they all have fuel inside, there's no way, or there's no point in coloring them orange, but instead I went with a little nuclear green because I wanted to fit them the color scheme of the project in general. Now let me actually head up really quick in order to show you what I meant just a minute ago. Now on the upper floor I want to test out the difference between providing illumination with large billboards and illumination by using ceiling lights in a more large room. For example, this one is way higher and bigger and has more volume than our logistics room underneath the factory. So as soon as these fuel generators will start running, these lights will be provided with energy. And then we have the direct comparison whether or not large billboards or ceiling lightings will work better in terms of illumination. But this one here is the only one that's overclocked, because every floor has 11 instead of 12 fuel generators in order to keep the entrance clear. I was missing room for just the last 2 fuel generators. And in order to keep the setup clean and not have to jam just 2 more fuel generators inside here maybe or somewhere else, I decided to overclock just one single one of them to a clock speed of 233.33%, which is exactly covering the last remaining 2 that we were not able to set up. But this is now actually 132 fuel generators, not 134, but still the same power output. And this is our rubber setup. And to be honest, I am very happy with the result on how the factory looks and turned out in the end. So all that's left to do now is to head to the logistics floor once more, flip the power switch and start everything here up all together. And in order to prepare this, I installed a little train station over here, because this railway is still connected to our central storage system and everything that we have in the Dune Desert, including our oil plant in the Blue Crater. So there's power there running in order to jumpstart everything all together. And as soon as everything here is running and providing 20,000 megawatts, we can cut off the other power grid again and have a self-sustainable power grid here set up. This one here is the power switch that we have to connect. Or that is... oh no, it's not connected yet. So here we have our power grid from the remaining save file, everything that's in the Dune Desert, Blue Crater and Swamp and so on. And the maximum consumption is labeled as 3,172 megawatts. But it's actually, I think, a little bit less because we have barely anything overclocked. I think only the fuel generators, which are providing power, not consuming. But there's actually a little bit of underclocking going on, so it might be a little bit less. But let's just see. And let's head up to the refinement room. Let's actually see what refinery starts up first. We can even stand up here to have the full overview. Maybe I should install a walkway up here as well. Okay, so far no crude oil has arrived. and I have no idea why. So let's head underneath and check the pipelines. But it would have been too nice if everything worked from the get-go. Now let's see, is there crude oil in here? Barely. But why is that? This one should be up and running and pumping as well. But it's not. $120. Okay, this one is completely filled up, but not providing. This does not seem to be connected at all. Maybe we have to replace it. Seems like the floor holes are still a little bit struggling. Let's see if that did the trick. Yes. Okay, this is looking a little bit better now. Okay, I checked all the oil extractors again, and seems like there has been some issues with the connection to the floor holes. But reconnecting everything really did the trick. So we should see some green lights up here now. Yes, and some refineries have already started up. Now, as always, this place will take some time in order to provide everything equally and steadily, but we already know this, so... But the first pieces of rubber are already getting extracted and transported to our train station. Yes, it's arriving. Alright, perfect. Already 100. Now this one should have power as well. Yes, they do. So, just in case we are completely backing up, they can sink the overflow. Now, since we had so much trouble with the crude oil floor holes, I'm heavily worried about the heavy oil residue in the water getting to the blenders. Okay, it's flowing, at least. What about the water? No water at all. Okay, let's check the blenders if there is at least the heavy oil residue reaching or it's completely empty. So I think I would have, or I will have to do some reconnecting. And let's actually flip the power switch back off again. Then I reconnect all the pipelines so that they are getting reset. And yeah, see you in a minute again. Okay, I reconnected all the floor holes from underneath and also one single pipeline connection from above. So if everything still does not work, but the one that I reconnected from both sides, we know that we also have to redo the upper ones as well. But let's flip the switch once more and see if this did the trick actually. Because water was actually not reaching here at all. But I also reconnected everything down there. Okay, let's first check the blenders and then go to the water extractors again. Man, this is going way less smooth than I hoped for. Okay, nothing is reaching still. But they have power. Are they all empty on water? Because on some... Oh no, here water is reaching, but still no heavy oil residue. I'm so confused. Okay. Heavy oil residue seems to take a little bit of more time, maybe just. Because we saw the tiniest amount getting transported to here. And oh. Okay. Oh, this one is running. Okay, but barely. So the heavy oil residue is reaching, but it's just the tiniest amount. Ah, okay. It's slowly arriving, slowly. Now this is getting active. Okay, and the fuel is flowing off properly. So maybe we just need to wait a little bit more on the heavy oil residue, but still this does not solve this problem that these fuel blenders do not get any water. So yeah, more troubleshooting, let's head down. Actually, let's check. It's the first ones here. What line is this? Okay, I don't know why, but removing the pump and a simple reconnection did the trick. Now water is arriving here as well. Heavy oil residue is also filling up. So let's check on the blenders. And I just really hope that the fuel pipelines are working better than this. Okay, this is now running. Let's get some height. Oh, we have all green on the right side. But this is receiving now everything. So is this. This one as well. What about you four? Receiving everything. Just idle for the moment. Alright, I think the blenders are working now at last. More difficult than expected, but since everything's running now in the end, it's fine. Alright, let's check on the fuel pipelines then, if we get the fuel to our generators. Let's first check the bottom. And it's... nah, is it stuck? Okay, this one has no flow rate at all. This does. This also. Okay, so maybe there's only one issue. Oh, I see the problem. Alright, I see the problem. Because we only provided power to the factory, and this one here is a separate power grid, the pumps are not working. Because I planned to start up the process over there, then the fuel gets provided, and once the first fuel generators start up... By the way, but the first ones should at least be running now. But no fuel is arriving here as well. Okay, this is odd. Because at least there should be fuel here, right? Okay, there is actually. But maybe it's just not enough. Okay, let's actually see if these can fill up. If we can fill up the first floor, we don't need to connect anything, because I was planning to have this being a separate power grid and transport the power by these power towers all the way, without the necessity of relying on the main power grid in our Dune Desert once more. Ah, okay, but we see our first action coming to life very, very slowly. Okay, I'll give it a minute and see if this place can start up by itself. Especially because the fuel cannot travel further up, because the pumps are not working. It should not be too long until some fuel has backed up for the first 22 fuel generators. Okay, that's what I like to see. Again, once again, the crucial factor was just giving it a little bit time. But now we have way more green lights than we do have red lights. And we also already reached the maximum capacity of this floor, which is 650 megawatts. Each floor can provide at max 650 megawatts, apart from the very top one where one of the fuel generators is overclocked. But I think it's now safe to flip the switch for the pumps so that the fuel gets provided up to the upper floors as well. Because even if there is a little bit of stuttering, the pumps only take, I think it was 154 megawatts at max. So if there are just two running at a time, this power grid should never break down. So let's flip. And on the other side as well. Also running kind of smoothly. Some red lights, but mostly green. And now these pumps should have power. They do. Perfect. Now let's see if the fuel reaches the next floor. It does. One of the pumps is already active. And here only red lights, but this is to be expected. But fuel is reaching. Very nice. Seems like these floor holes at least are working. Let's actually check. Yeah, more green lights. Alright, perfect. Okay. Seems like I don't have to redo the fuel pipelines, at least. But let's actually wait for the autosave one and for the first green light on this level as well. Oh yeah, and the lighting on the very top should work as well. We will definitely check out this later in order to compare. But I also went back to the blenders really quick, and there are a little bit of more issues as well, because, for example, at one blender the fuel is not flowing off and does not get transported over here, so I will have to do a little bit of troubleshooting very, very soon. And I'm surprised the fuel is not arriving at all here. It is, actually. Maybe I spoke too soon. This one was green just... Ah, okay, it finally seems to reach. Maybe I'm just impatient. Maybe I just should wait just a little bit longer. But every once in a while now green lights are appearing here as well, not only in the very right one. Alright, I will do this for every other floor as well. Connect all the power switches. Check if everything gets fuel and everything is connected properly, as well as for the factory. And once I'm sure that everything works here, I will come back to you. Okay, I've been to every floor, flipped all the power switches, and this place is slowly coming up to life, jumping between 6,000 and 7,000 megawatts. Of course, the upper levels do not have fuel provided yet, but this will take, I think, a little bit of more time. But the lighting does now have electricity, so we can in fact compare the illumination. And this is how the large billboards look again, providing a little bit of more steady light all across the floor. And this is the lighting of the ceiling lightings. And they both have pros and cons in my opinion. I really like the spread out illumination all across the room, which makes it more evenly provided. But at the same time it's creating this sort of glimmery, which also gives you, I think, a little bit of screen tearing when you move around. So it's not the cleanest light, whereas on the other side, this is only very spotlight-ish and only illuminating what's directly underneath. But the light looks way cleaner. So maybe we even do a split, like both. I don't have the material. Maybe I have to do a mixture of ceiling lights and large billboards to have the perfect result. But I really do like how these basically put the fuel generators in the spotlight, which is basically the main part of the power towers. So I will definitely put up a ceiling light above each fuel generator, but also try out if adding large billboards to the ceiling lights has a better impact. But yeah, we will do this once everything is running smoothly, because there's still a lot of troubleshooting to do and also a little bit of time to pass by in order to make everything running smoothly. So yeah, let me run to the factory really quick and check what's not working and fix everything that has to be fixed. Okay. At the power towers, by checking the power grid, you can always look on how the efficiency is of the whole setup, because the more fuel here arrives, the better we know how much of the process is actually working. And it was at around 12,000 something all the time, so basically stuck at around 60% of the maximum output. And I just couldn't figure out why that is. The refineries were sometimes only at 25%, 30% of efficiency, And it turns out there was one single valve too much. I don't know why it was, because I was setting up valves in order to steer the flow direction in the pipelines, especially for the crude oil, but seems one was limiting the flow overall, and by simply deleting it, you can see we are now climbing way beyond the 12,000 megawatt output. We are currently between 14 and 15,000, so we are getting higher and higher in the numbers, and I think it will still take a lot of time until we have a steady output of the maximum 20,000 megawatts, but yeah, I will give it some time just as an update so you know what the main issue was, most likely at least. You can see a lot of steam in the tube, so it starts running more and more fluently. Alright, and I actually don't know how many hours of troubleshooting I had to spend, but now I think we finally worked it out altogether. Now, the cosmetics are basically complete. As you can see, I extended the label signs that give the orange light in the main hall in order to have everything look neat. And the first trouble that I had is that the refineries are not or were not working at 100%, especially this line. It's still trying to recover, but the issue, after going back and forth very much, the issue seemed to be this junction where the 120 crude oil pipeline merged with the 480 from the pure node. So I split these up evenly, and now both lines are transporting 300 crude oil each, because this oil extractor is now completely overclocked. And I basically did the same on the other side as well, although the backslash was not so drastic. It was still not running on 100%, but now, since I split it up evenly and connected only 10 refineries per pipeline, everything regarding refinements is running smoothly since, although I have to delete this. And you can also see I tried various different styles of lighting down here in order to illuminate the room properly. I inserted some windows on top of each other every once in a while on this wall. I inserted a whole line of windows on the side that's heading out to the sea, and also tried out different illuminating styles, different colors. And on this wall over there, I went with this continuous label sign approach. I tried it out because I have seen it, but I really don't like it too much because of this, yeah, let's call it lighting pollution that it's generating. Like, you have this glimmering all around it instead of a nice illumination just like the ceiling lights. So I think what I will do down here is install a line of windows just like on this wall over there all around, and then this should do the trick, at least at daytime. But yeah, this is what's happening down here, but this is basically finished. What's also now finished is the blending room, because as soon as we were providing enough heavy oil residue because of the refinement running at 100%, the next issue has been the water not providing equally. I don't know why, but here the 600 meters of water line was turning around, and everything else coming after this pipeline was provided with more than sufficient water, but this one wasn't, and I had no idea why. I couldn't figure it out. Actually, this one can be cut off. And yeah, after trying out various things but having other problems, then after one was solved, the next one showed up, I decided to also split up the water pipelines into 4 different segments, so that we don't have two pipelines that are providing the maximum amount of 600 meters of water, but instead now we have 4 pipelines providing 400 water each and going to 4 blenders each. So now we have basically 4 identical segments in our blending room, and since then the energy or the fuel production is running smoothly as well. And as you can see, we are still trying to get the constant power output of 20,000 megawatts. We are barely touching it. I think here we only have been 2 fuel generators short, but every fuel generator at least ran once. So I think it's only a matter of time until we reach the smooth 100% of power production. Since we are here way beyond the 95% of power output, so it's just like the last percentage that has to run continuously. And also have been giving the power towers the final touch. For example, I really liked that the water here was giving a little bit of blue glimmer inside the pump tower. So I equipped the glass stairway or glass walkway with street lights giving out blue light. And yeah, this really gives you the underwater or under the sea feeling, which I really like. Kind of an alternative approach apart from the normal general lighting. And on top there are 3 wall-mounted lights that also give this blue light, and once you reach a little bit of a higher level, this is visible very good as well. And in the fuel generator levels, I equipped every fuel generator with a ceiling light, and especially when you look down and up, this looks very, very good in my opinion. Yeah, and this is the effect that the wall lightings give because of the blue light as well. Much more dense blue light, and I really like the effect that it's giving. Anyways, whoops. I was heading up to the highest level because I wanted to show you also that the large billboards are only giving so much as illumination once we have all the ceiling lights installed. I also went with the one at the entrance. But this really takes away the highlight of the fuel generators, so I decided to not do the lighting on the entrance. It's not necessary anyways, but I also will delete the large billboards up here, because in my opinion this takes away the spotlight effect of the ceiling lights and also only provides so much illumination in this room on top, but on downside also generates a little bit of the lighting pollution, how I want to call it. So I really prefer to have the ceiling lights solo, and in my opinion this does a really great job. And this is a very, very nice site in my opinion. Let's see if we reached the 20,000 megawatts once. So barely. Just 300 megawatts missing, but I am very, very positive that this is only a matter of time. Once all the pipes filled up, backlogged a little bit, this is working at 100% efficiency, and we finally can mark the rubber production as well as the power towers as complete. Which means that we will finally move on. And the next 2 projects are kind of, basic factories, because I plan to do a concrete factory and a quartz silica factory next. And since these are very basic, I think we will be able to set these down in the next 1 or 2 episodes at max, and finally have some progress after being done with this factory here. But since the troubleshooting and everything else here took way more time than I expected, I think I will call it a day for this one. And in the next episode we will start off with the upcoming projects and tasks and challenges that there are to come together. So, all that's left to say is thank you very much for watching. If you enjoy the content, please subscribe and leave a like. And stay tuned for the next one. If you have any feedback, feel free to drop it. I'm always appreciating feedback, tips for improvements, constructive criticism. So yeah, thank you, and I hope to see you in the next one.